If you know very little, you're confused. But if you know too much, then also you're confused. The only time when you're not confused is when you know exactly enough to make a well thought out decision for yourself. So that's why today, so what exam should I go for? TEF or TCF? Well, I'm coming on to it. Both exams have 4 modules: reading, listening, speaking and writing. And we need NCLC 7 out of 12 in all 4 modules to clear TEF or TCF Canada exam for Canadian immigration. And what about the cost? $10. What? Difference. TEF Canada costs about 390 CAD, whereas TCF Canada costs about 400. Okay, let's say if I give any of these exams today, what is the validity of these exams? 2 years. Okay, let's say if I fail any of these exams, do I get reattempts? Yeah, you can reattempt as many times as you want. After how many days I can book another exam? 30 days. So let's say tomorrow is your exam, but day after tomorrow you receive the result. Once you receive the result, only then you should book 30 days from the time when you receive the results. Technically, your 30 days starts from when you have attempted the exam, not when you have received the result, but still we never know. So it's better to wait for the results and then attempt the exam. And your question might also be like, what if I book TEF Canada exam on one day and after 3 days I book the TCF Canada exam? No, that is not eligible. If you give TEF on one day and next attempt you want to give TCF, you still have to wait 30 days for the other exam as well. Is there any negative marking? No, there is no negative marking. Okay, so you mentioned we need 7 out of 12 CLB in each module, but what is the score exactly? Sure. Let's talk about how much we need to score in each module to get that NCLC 7 for your PR. Okay, so I have opened the scoring criteria of TEF Canada on my left hand side and TCF Canada on my right hand. In TEF Canada, in listening and reading, we need to have 434 to 461 out of 699 to get NCLC 7 in both modules out of 12. In writing, we need to have 428 to 471 out of 699. In speaking, we need to have 456 to 493 out of 699 to get that NCLC 7 out of 12. And talking about TCF Canada, see NCLC 7 over here in TCF Canada, for listening, we need 458 to 502. And in reading, we need 453 to 498 score out of 699 to clear our reading TCF Canada exam. In spoken, it's not out of 699, it's going to be from 20. So out of 20, we need about 10 to 11 score. Okay, and in written as well, we need 10 to 11 score out of 20. Now you might feel like, 10 out of 20, that's just like 50%. No, that's not the case. 10 out of 20 in writing and speaking does not mean it's 50% level of French that you need to know. It's still NCLC 7, almost equal to what level we need in TEF Canada. It's just that their scoring criteria is different. Overall, when we compare the scores, even though the numbering feels different up and down, they are still analyzing your NCLC 7 level. Whether it's TEF or TCF, if you are actually fluent, you will get good score in either of these exams. So do not compare the actual numbers between them. So I would like to take this opportunity to discuss about Harleen, Darshan, those who have cleared TEF Canada exam under Frenchify guidance just within 1 year. And Bhavya as well cleared his TEF Canada exam for Francophone mobility program within just 6.5 months. And here are the results of Harleen, Darshan and Bhavya. The reason why I'm sharing this with you is that I want to make you understand that learning French is possible. If your goal is to clear TEF TCF Canada exam, 1 year is the time that if you are dedicated enough and if you are studying regularly and if you take a proper structured approach through Frenchify programs, you will be able to clear your exam within 12 months. If your focus is a Francophone mobility program, within 6 to 7 months, just as Bhavya did. Now open up your notebooks because it's going to be a lot of useful information. Let's understand the structural differences between reading, listening, speaking, writing of TEF Canada as well as TCF Canada. And we are also going to give a score to each aspect of TEF and TCF Canada exam to compare which one should be the best option for you. Reading in both the exams are MCQs with 4 options, just like KBC. Lifelines milengi. And the difficulty will increase with increasing order. So when we talk about TEF Canada, we have 40 questions to do in 60 minutes. Whereas in TCF Canada, we have 39 questions to do in 60 minutes. So just 1 question difference. So in reading of each exam, I'll give 1 score to each of them because there is no major difference. Achha, if TCF Canada has 39 questions, isn't it easier? Let's talk about listening. All the questions are MCQs. In TEF Canada, we get 40 questions to solve under 40 minutes, whereas in TCF Canada, we get 39 questions to solve in 35 minutes. Now, here's the thing. In listening exam, in TEF or TCF Canada, either exams you go for, you cannot control the screen. In reading, you can go back and forth. Either it's TEF or TCF, you can go back and forth. As long as you are within the time frame of 60 minutes, you can go to first question and jump on to 35 question, 36 question and go accordingly. But when we talk about listening, you cannot do this. You cannot control the time and the amount of time that you can give to each audio. The audios will keep on going and the screen will keep on changing. So in both of the exams, you will just have to go with the flow. And when talking about how many times the audio can be played, in TEF as well as in TCF Canada, audios will not be played more than once. So it's only one time that you get to listen to audio, whether it's TEF Canada exam or TCF Canada. So that means listening is all same, right? Nah. Now here's the problem. In TEF Canada exam, firstly, when you're listening to the audios, the questions are shown in front of you. You know, it will be a written text and you also have the options underneath it so that you can select them. But TCF Canada exam, here is one problem. Once the audio is played, once the actual content audio is played, after the audio there is going to be question in the form of audio. So you cannot read a question, you only have to listen to the questions and then you can select either of the MCQs. So this is something which makes it very difficult in TCF Canada exam to attempt. So if you lose your focus once, you are gone. Okay, whereas in TEF Canada there is no such problem. Not talking about who wins in listening. I think listening in TEF Canada exam is a bit easy because questions are not in the format of audio. You can actually read the question, which makes it easier for you to understand and then select the right option accordingly. I also want to mention one more thing is that Frenchify programs are updated with step-by-step learning starting from A1, A2, B1 and B2 catered towards TEF and TCF Canada. So if you're someone who is a complete beginner, you can register for A1 level program where we are starting French journey right from zero, and for the first 10 registrants there will be $50 discount if you use this coupon code, and make sure to use this coupon code before 10 entries are gone to confirm your discount. And to know more about Frenchify programs, you can visit my website given in the link below. So talking about writing in TEF and TCF Canada exam, it is very important to understand because there are some complex differences between both. The time that you will get in both exams are going to be 60 minutes for TEF, 60 minutes for TCF. When we talk about the tasks specifically, in TEF Canada, you are going to have two tasks, Section A and Section B. Talking about Section A, you are going to get 25 minutes only to write minimum 80 words, okay? But anywhere you can write around 100 words. That is my recommendation so that you are able to write enough information to flow a story. Now, what happens in Section A of TEF Canada is you're given with a particular headline of a news, which is a fait divers, and you're supposed to create a journal story out of it, like a news journal article story. And here are a couple of examples of the questions and their sample answers so that you can get the idea what is it about. Talking about Section B of TEF Canada, time limit is 35 minutes and it holds more value, and you are supposed to write minimum of 200 words. Now in this, what happens is you are given with a proposition statement. For example, you know, everyone should adopt veganism for a good health, or there should be a separate society for old people to stay in, and do you agree or disagree? Okay, and you have to write a letter to the editor talking about your argument. So what you have to do is you have to give 3 arguments. You can do 2 agreement, 1 disagreement, 2 disagreement, 1 agreement, or you can do 3 disagreements, you can do 3 agreements, okay? And obviously you have to write the introduction and conclusion at the end, so that will obviously be there. Something similar that we have done in IELTS already, okay? But let's not compare IELTS with TEF now. So important thing to understand over here is that you are only given 25 minutes for Section A and 35 minutes for Section B. In total, it comes out to be 60 minutes. Talking about TCF Canada, we do get 60 minutes and we are given 3 tasks. Now the good thing about TCF Canada is that you can divide 60 minutes according to how you want, okay? There is no specific time limit for each task, which makes it a bit easier to manage time. First of all, let's talk about task number 1. See, in task number 1, you'll be getting a specific situation or a specific scenario, and you are supposed to write a message to explain, to talk, or to tell about that particular response to that particular situation. The question is like this. If you pause the video and if you read the question, we have to give a response to the question in the format of explanation or in the format of giving a description about something. The minimum words that we are supposed to write are 60 and the maximum we are supposed to write are 120. So you have to fluctuate in between 60 to 120 to complete this task. In task number 2, you are supposed to send an article, a letter, or more sort of like a note. Okay, so you'll be given a particular question. In question, the situation would have been explained to you. For example, over here, okay, vous avez commencé à prendre des cours dans une université canadienne. Vous envoyez un message à votre ami pour lui raconter votre première semaine. Vous donnez votre opinion sur l'université et sur les cours. Okay, so this was the first day of our first week of our university, and we are supposed to give our opinion to our friend on the course and on the university. So we are supposed to explain this particular thing and present our point of views or opinions for 120 to 150 words. Task number 3, I don't like it. Okay, now what we are supposed to do in task 3 is that we are going to be given 2 paragraphs. Okay, we are going to be given a proposition as a title, and we are going to be given 2 paragraphs. First paragraph, it's going to be about a general overview of that statement, and in the second paragraph will be about an opinion of someone else. Okay, and what we are supposed to do over here is we are supposed to read both of these paragraphs, and we are supposed to create our own paragraph where we give the overview on that particular topic, and in the second paragraph we are also supposed to give our opinion on that particular topic. First of all, over here you are supposed to read both the paragraphs, present the overall summary, and then also present your own opinion. And you also have to make sure that you are not using the same vocabulary and same phrases that were used in that particular in those particular 2 paragraphs. So this is a bit more challenging. Okay, for the first paragraph summary that we are supposed to write, that should be between 40 to 60 words, and the second opinion that we are supposed to write, that should be between 80 to 120 words. Oh, that's a lot of writing in TCF, isn't it? Exactly. In TEF Canada, we are writing about 300 to 320 words, but in TCF Canada also we are writing about 300 to 320 words. Okay, so there is no problem, right? No, let's think about it again. See, the problem in TCF Canada is because there are 3 parts, it becomes a lot more difficult psychologically to train for 3 aspects rather than 2 aspects in TEF Canada. Wait, think about it once again. See, if you are given 3 tasks, in 60 minutes, you're supposed to, during your practice as well, you're supposed to get used to 3 formats rather than 2. Whereas in TEF Canada, it's only 2 formats, TCF Canada, it's 3 formats, and the time is same. So it takes a bit more of a mental energy to get trained in different formats rather than 2 formats. Okay, it's a bit more simpler. According to my opinion, TCF Canada is a bit more clunky. And see, the other thing is, the tasks that we are supposed to do in TEF Canada, we have already done it in our childhood. Like section A is report writing, we have done it in, high school 11th or 12th standard, and section B, letter to an editor, that is something that we already trained during IELTS. So the format is already a lot more familiar, we just need to do it in French rather than English. Whereas in TCF Canada, first of all we have to use to get to those type of questions, and then we have to write that in French, which makes it a lot more complex. In this case, my personal opinion, TEF Canada wins over TCF Canada. Okay, now let's talk about speaking. In TEF Canada, we are given 2 tasks, Section A, Section B. Section A happens for 5 minutes, where we are given with a particular advertisement. We are supposed to read that advertisement. We are going to get 1 minute of preparation, basically to read that advertisement, and then once the 1 minute is done, we have to ask 10 to 12 questions to the examiner on that particular advertisement. For example, the advertisement can be about photography services, and there is going to be the whole package of photography would have been explained, and then we are supposed to call that company to ask more about it. I have 3 children. Do you also provide photography services for kids? Where is your office situated? I live close to Toronto. Do you have an office in Toronto? And stuff like that. Okay, and we are supposed to ask about 10 to 12 questions, or we are supposed to do this conversation for about 5 minutes. It's a formal conversation, and it's a dialogue conversation, which means it is a bit easier. It's not any sort of like a monologue where you have to speak all the time. Moving on to section B, this happens for 10 minutes, in which we are supposed to, again, we are given one advertisement, but over here we are supposed to influence our friend to take that particular service. Now this conversation is going to be informal, and in section B as well, we get 1 minute of preparation. Okay, it's going to happen for 10 minutes. So yeah, conversation is long, which is one of the tricky aspects of this section B. But the thing is, because again, it's a dialogue, sometimes the examiner helps us. Like it has happened a few times with a couple of my students. They, and it happens with everyone. We get blank during section B of TEF Canada. At that point, examiner kind of leads the conversation and just asks the questions in that way, so that we are able to get back onto the track. So It feels overwhelming, but because it's dialogue, both of the sections are dialogue, it is overall easy to attempt. The actual exam time is 15 minutes, but 15 plus 2 minutes of preparation, it's about 17. So 15 to 17 minutes, the total time will run for your TEF Canada speaking. Now for TCF Canada, there are going to be 3 tasks. The first task is going to be introduction, which will be about 2 to 2.5 minute introduction. It's a formal introduction. You won't get any time for preparation. Okay, so once you just enter the exam room, you just sit, and after they do the formalities, you're just supposed to introduce yourself. Now see, you could have, obviously you would be memorizing this, but if you've already memorized this, examiner will, they will be able to sense it out. So you have to make it feel like a natural introduction. Now second task is almost similar to the section A of TEF Canada. In second task of TCF Canada, what happens is we are given with a particular situation. Now this is not an advertisement, we are given with a particular situation. Example is over here, and we are supposed to read this situation for 2 minutes. And after 2 minutes of prep, we are supposed to ask questions to that person depending on what is that situation about. We have to ask questions for about 3.5 minutes. This can be a formal conversation, this can be an informal conversation. It depends on the question. Okay, so over here you are not sure, and sometimes you can get it wrong. Okay, so you really have to make sure that you understand the context properly. So this is a bit of a challenge of a task 2, but overall it can be done almost similar to section A of TEF Canada. Task 3 of TCF Canada, this is going to be an impromptu monologue. You are given with a particular proposition and you do not get any time to prepare. What? Okay, no time. Now this is one of the most challenging parts of TCF Canada exam. I'm not saying you can't do a monologue, but in comparison to TEF Canada, where you are doing a dialogue conversation, this is a monologue conversation where examiner won't speak. Once you get the topic, you just have to speak. Let's say you paused a lot earlier, that's kind of like a negative sign, because then you have a high risk of losing marks. So you cannot just like pause in between. You have to speak for about 4.5 minutes. If you pause around 4 minutes, then the examiner can ask you a couple of questions on your particular arguments and then lead the conversation. But yeah, generally speaking, this is a bit more anxiety generating task to do. So which one do you think is better? See, it's evident, isn't it? In TEF Canada exam, we have 2 sections, whereas in TCF, we have 3 sections, making TEF Canada exam a little bit less complex. And the other thing is, it's also less overwhelming, because in TCF, see, if you are stuck in monologue, it's a big problem. It's going to make you lose the confidence. Whereas in TEF Canada exam, it's mainly you who is riding the conversation, but examiner can jump in between to kind of make you go with the flow. So overall, for me, TEF Canada wins. See, before discussing the final score, I want to make one thing clear. Apart from listening, I genuinely feel reading was all equal, but in writing and speaking, there was a very small difference. Okay, it's not enough to decide to go for one or the another exam, but I feel if I have to choose, I'll be choosing speaking and writing for TEF Canada rather than TCF Canada. Okay, even though difference is like 3 to 4%, that is still enough for me to choose TEF Canada. Okay, for you, it is very subjective. Now, I am not saying for you to choose TEF Canada just because speaking and writing is easier. In your case, you might actually like speaking and writing better for TCF Canada rather than TEF. Okay, so this is very subjective. But when we talk about listening, yeah, listening was where I actually saw a big difference, and this is what I recommend for listening as well. So after looking at the score, in reading we have equal, no winners in reading. In listening we have TEF Canada over TCF Canada. In writing, I would go with TEF Canada then TCF Canada, and in speaking as well, if I have to choose, I would go over TEF then TCF. For me, overall, TEF Canada wins in this race. I'm sure after watching this video, you would have got enough idea on what exam to go for, TEF or TCF Canada. Now, if you want to learn French for either of these exams, TEF or TCF Canada, do not worry. All my programs are structured in a way that they focus on both of these exams. So if you're interested, make sure to click the link below to know more. And if you want more detailed information regarding Frenchify programs, make sure to book a meeting with my team. You can do so by going on to my website. I put the link below. So make sure to book your consultation to properly know more about French and start your learning as soon as possible.